Hey Mary, I have a question for you.
What's on your mind, Hannah?
I have many students in my class that use Ebonics when they speak, and I don't know how to correct them without it seeming like their vernacular is wrong, when really it's just another dialect of English.
Well, Ebonics is a concept that was discussed frequently in my classes during college. Before I started taking classes that focused on linguistics in the classroom, I thought that students always needed to be corrected. I knew that they needed to know standard English in order to be successful in society, and I assumed the only way to teach them was by correcting them. I learned this is not the case. Although I still believe that all students need to know standard English, I've learned about different strategies that don't show preference over one dialect, but simply encourages them both. One technique I learned is called word discrimination. In this activity, the teacher presents stimulus patterns that are a combination of standard English and Black English, and students indicate their ability to differentiate them by responding with same or different. For example, when the teacher presents help, standard English, and hep, Black English, students respond with same if it's the same word, or different if it's a different word. In the sentence discrimination drill, the teacher presents patterns that are similar to those in the word drill except that key words are placed in sentences. For example, students listen to, I help my sister, Black English, and I help my sister, and respond with same if it's the same sentence, or different if it's a different sentence. Another technique I learned is telling the students to translate a Black English sentence into standard English and vice versa. I got this idea specifically from a video I watched in my linguistics class, and the students played it as a Jeopardy game. Making it a game and adding competitiveness gets the kids excited, which is always ideal.
Oh wow, thanks so much for that idea. I'm going to try that out in my own classroom.
Now I have a question for you.
Sure, what is it?
I have a student that just moved here from Guatemala. He knows some English, but is really struggling with formatting questions and using the past tense correctly.
What has he been saying?
Well, for example, he often makes his questions sound like statements. He doesn't use do, does, what, or which. It's hard for me to tell if he's asking a question or just telling me something.
I read an article about how languages are learned, and it talked about the different stages that people go through when learning a new language. It sounds like your student is in stage 2. He hasn't developed fronting yet and only has learned the correct intonation. He should be consistently advancing to the following stages. The next stage will be do fronting and WH fronting. Second language learners do not learn language through imitation and practice much of the time. They often form their sentences based on internal cognitive processes and prior knowledge that interact with the language they hear around them. Both first and second language learners have their own set of evolving rules.
What about the past tense errors? He is 12 and still saying bide and teached instead of using the correct irregular forms.
Actually, second language learners usually learn the irregular verbs before they learn to apply the simple past tense, ed. Many times, the student who says, you teached me math, knows more about English grammar than the student who says, you taught me math. The one who says teached knows the rule for forming the past tense and has simply applied it to an irregular verb. He will learn the irregular verbs with time. Your situation reminds me of a student in my 3rd grade classroom that has just moved here from China. She speaks both Chinese and English, however she struggles in reading and writing English, which has caused her grades to greatly suffer. Her parents are really concerned that she will always be behind in the classroom. I think with time she'll catch up, but I don't know how to explain that to her parents.
I think there are several reasons for the student to fall behind in the academics. The transition from Chinese to English is drastic, and it will take time for her to get used to speaking, thinking, reading, and writing in English 100% of the time. There are also 2 parts to language acquisition, the communication side and the academic side. This differentiation is called BICS-CALP. BICS stands for Basic Interpersonal Communications Skills, and CALPS is Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. A child is more likely to excel in the BICS portion because this is what is used on the playground, on the phone, on the school bus, and in public. It takes about 6 months for a child to acquire the BICS portion of a language. However, the CALP portion is essential to learning. It includes listening, speaking, reading, writing, and anything else considered academic. CALP takes much longer to acquire because it includes understanding vocabulary, but it also includes necessary skills such as classifying and comparing. It can take a child up to 7 years to master the CALP side of a language.
So you think if I explain to the parents the difference between social language and academic language, they will understand that their child will eventually catch up in the classroom?
Most definitely. It will take your student time to advance in her English, but she will eventually get there with the help of her parents and her teachers.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go call her parents right now before the kids get back from recess.